It's been a pretty hot summer, so what's a better way to escape the heat than by staying inside, running a video game console or PC that generates heat of their own, and saving money by not running the air conditioning? It's so hot. Okay, Ironside is a game I've covered before, and man, did it feel good to return to it. It was released a few years ago, and it's the biggest, fattest clone of Call of Duty Black Ops 2 I've ever played, and I mean that in the best possible way. What makes Ironside so special in today's day and age is that it faithfully mimics and copies a design formula for the Call of Duty series that Call of Duty itself no longer follows. Ever since Advanced Warfare, the series has bounced from ripping off Titanfall to becoming a slip-and-slide wall-mounting juggernaut in Warzone. We haven't had a traditional Call of Duty 4 style COD game since 2012, unless, of course, you count Ironside. There's no sliding, no leaning, no bus scaling, broken vaulting mechanics, no weapon mounting, and enough weapons, score streaks, and attachments for you to eat. It also helps that it's extremely well optimized for PC. It can even run on integrated graphics pretty well, so potato machines should run it no problem. What's also a bit mad is that it's apparently changed developers or publishers once or twice since I last reviewed it, and even made it to Steam. Despite this, the core of the game is unchanged. The Call of Duty created class is here, and the Black Ops 2 vibes this game gives off feel as nostalgic as ever. If any developers of Ironsides end up watching this video, please consider a console port. There's an older chunk of the Call of Duty audience that is craving this kind of game, and a console port would be absolutely worth it for those who aren't a big fan of the enhanced mobility era or Warzone era of Call of Duty. With that being said, Ironside is good fun. It's really, really good fun. Polygon is what happens when Battlefield fans take it upon themselves to make games. Similar to the upcoming BattleBit, Polygon draws heavy inspiration from the Battlefield franchise. The spawn screen, UI elements, death cam, it's all here. From what I've read online, it's developed by a single person or at least an extremely small group of people with assistance from patrons. Because of that, you probably noticed that it's a tad, well, blocky. Not that this is a bad thing, by the way. It gives Polygon a bit of a cool aesthetic and atmosphere since your imagination begins filling in some of the gaps, kind of like older video games. The game is still very much a work in progress, so there's quite a bit of jank, such as the movement. It's hard to explain, but player movement feels sort of like Grand Theft Auto 5 or Red Dead Redemption 2 in first person, if that makes sense. You know, like the camera is attached to a physical character who moves about the world, so you sort of have to wait for those third-person animations to finish or start playing before your inputs are registered. It leads to some weird janky moments where your head can clip through a wall or you feel like you're not quite as responsive as you should be. But there is a certain charm to it. It leads to a slower, more defensive combat style, which reminds me of the fun push and pull shootouts that Operation Metro or Operation Locker in Battlefield provided. You can reload while aiming down the sights, recoil is quite easy to control for weapons, and if you're patient, once you get the hang of the player movement and learn to stop rushing, it can be quite an engaging experience. If you want to give this one a try, it's definitely worth it. It's got a small download size, a developer who seems communicative, and a passionate little community. Oh, and of course, a server browser, which makes finding matches quite easy. Isn't that funny, Dice? How server browsers help small communities stay together. Hired Ops is a bit of a weird game. From what I can gather, it's made by the original developers of Escape from Tarkov, or it's made by a B team of developers. Either way, it's set in the Tarkov universe, which apparently exists, and unlike Escape from Tarkov, which is extremely simulational in its gameplay, Hired Ops is a casual, free-to-play game with a much more arcadey gameplay and weapon system. At first, the hilarious Eurocamp gave me flashbacks to Survarium, a game I tried back in 2018.
Be sure not to be flattened in an anomaly, or get eaten by a local Pinocchio.
Jump down, it won't kill you. Painful, get used to it. Or better, learn to always carry a first aid kit on you.
Once in-game, there's a serious charm to this game's goofiness. You can tell that the game is built on a much heavier gameplay system, and it's sort of been hacked into having Twitch shooter responsiveness. So on one hand, you've got these incredibly weighty animations and grounded movement and camera shakes. But once the gunfire starts going off, you're bunny hopping around and hip firing like it's Call of Duty. I actually kicked serious ass in my second match of Hired Ops. I honestly couldn't tell if there were bots in the match or not, but I did so well that my brain encouraged me to keep playing. As I kept going on, however, I noticed moments of weirdness, such as shots following me around corners, taking a ton of damage all at once, like the server lagged or something. And when I went online to check this out, this is apparently an issue that the developers never really bothered to fix, and in general, it seems like the developers just dumped the game on players and then abandoned it, leaving only the die-hard fans to wage war against the hordes of bots that do indeed fill the servers. Hired Ops doesn't look good by today's standards. It's a bit closer to a 2012 or 2013 shooter, but the arcadey gameplay mixed with the heavy animations and movement make it a great game to play if you enjoy the likes of pre-2042 Battlefield games and other heavier feeling shooters. Despite the server issues, I quite enjoyed my time in the deathmatch modes and objective modes. Give it a try if you're strapped for cash and want an arcadey shooter that sticks to the modern military aesthetic. Just please don't put any money into this game. Enjoy the free content, but don't support what is functionally a dead free-to-play game.
Enemy front!
Planetside 2 is an MMO shooter that pits hundreds of players versus hundreds of other players as they battle across incredibly huge maps that could make Battlefield 2042 blush. Unlike Battlefield 2042, Planetside 2 actually has satisfying combat and a fantastic atmosphere. This game has actually been around for almost a decade, and it's really cool to know that it's still doing well, and still has entire armies fighting against each other in the servers. Like the good Battlefield games, there's a lot of jabs at Battlefield 2042 in this video. I'm just still so salty.
Well, that was fun.
Like the good Battlefield games, you can pick from a variety of classes that serve combat roles. There's a medic who can revive and heal, an engineer who can repair tanks and deploy usable stationary guns, a sniper who can snipe, and much more. Your core gameplay is quite a bit like Battlefield 3. You can sprint, melee, throw grenades aiming down the sights, use a pistol or gadget, and even spot targets with the Q key, so it should feel instantly familiar to fans of Battlefield 3 and 4. The match never really ends in Planetside. If you wanted to keep playing, you could, and the match will never end. You essentially fight for control of massive regions, and depending on certain conditions, that region will eventually be given to either the enemy or your team. Then, the loser has to fall back to their previous position, and the victor pushes on to that position. Theoretically, I guess, you could potentially lock down a server if you had a large enough army and could defend the various points well enough, but to this day, that's never happened, so the armies of Planetside 2 continue to fight. The scale of Planetside 2 is impressive as hell. There's something about seeing a massive war happening in the distance, orbital bombardments hitting the side of a mountain, and realizing you're about 5 minutes away from arriving due to how just large the environment is. It puts the scale of the game into perspective and really impresses me to this day. Planetside 2 was apparently also released on the PlayStation 4, which is super impressive in its own right, though the developers have apparently been really lacking on that PS4 port. Still, there's apparently a few hundred players per server on PS4, which is still enough to get some semblance of the large-scale PC battles. If you're a fan of the Battlefield series, specifically the Battlefield 3 and 4 era, give Planetside 2 a try. It's still got thousands of players and provides such a fun experience that I might go play more for the next few weeks.
We've successfully defended the facility.
I'll get you fixed up.
Splitgate is a game I've actually been playing for the better part of a year or so now. The best way to pitch it is it's a bit like if Black Ops 3's jetpacks had a baby with old arena shooters like Quake and then sprinkled some Halo influences on top for flavor. It takes inspiration from a lot of games, but its big gameplay gimmick are the portals you can place on specific surfaces to allow for quick traversal and some pretty fun situations. Did you find the sniper rifle and now need a good vantage point to snipe from? Well, shoot a portal to a place high above the map. Boom, you're now providing sniper fire from the air, from the ground, at the same time. You can do all sorts of awesome things like that, and there's a lot of content in the game too. It's got a timed race mode, it's got a forge mode, as well as a server browser, it's got bot support, it's got this extensive list of game modes and gameplay options, and enough content that I could honestly justify a $20 price tag attached to this game. I don't want that, of course, but it's just insane how much this game offers for the price of $0 up front. It's a really solid shooter, and one that I've covered previously on the channel, not once, but twice. If you're a fan of the enhanced mobility Halo titles, Black Ops 3, and more arcadey shooters, then Splitgate is worth a download. The console ports are solid, and so is the PC version. The developers are also rather vigilant in their updates and responding to community feedback.
Double kill. Gain the lead.
So, Ring of Elysium is a weird game. I'm trying not to cover Battle Royale or extraction shooters in this video since we've all had it up to our ears in Apex Legends, Warzones, and PUBGs. But Ring of Elysium was a game that had a lot of buzz prior to its release, and then it released. People said, wow, this plays pretty well, and then promptly moved back to fighting Godzilla or Harley Quinn or whatever limited time nonsense is currently happening over in COD-land. Ring of Elysium is just, I don't know, fine. It has great animation quality. The graphics look about on par with Warzone. The mechanics are competent. You essentially pick your hero ability prior to a match starting, and then you do the Battle Royale thing. Looking for loot and attachments, killing guys and stealing their loot and attachments. Just, the issue is, I've done all of this before in other games. In PUBG, I've done the gritty, if slightly janky, open world art style and gunplay. In Warzone, I've done the mismatch of ugly cosmetics and weapon skins. I've done the whole hero ability thing in Apex Legends. Ring of Elysium is a competent game, but it lacks any sort of identity. I don't normally drop money on free-to-play games, and I certainly would not drop money on the cosmetics of this game, which doesn't even have a cosmetic identity to call its own. With Call of Duty, as ugly and nonsensical as Warzone has become, I at least know who Captain Price is and have an emotional attachment to him, so there's at least that hook in my wallet there. With Apex Legends, the Titanfall universe is cool enough and the mechanical design of the combat loop is thought out well enough that I could see some people buying skins, but Ring of Elysium? What is this game's point? If not my money, why does it even deserve my time? It's full of bots, and support from the developers seems non-existent. I mean, hell, what is a Ring of Elysium? What does that title even mean? It seems like something a random name generator created. The circle in Ring of Elysium is called the Ash, so it doesn't even get points there. I don't know, man, the game gives me weird vibes. It's a tragedy because the production value is here. The game feels fantastic to play. I mean, look at these animations and weapon mechanics. Imagine if they ditched the Battle Royale thing and did what Hired Ops did and designed a fun, low player count twitch shooter with weighty movement and gun mechanics. Now that's a game I'd play. This, though? Just avoid it. It's dead. Okay, I know it may seem insane, but a guy's gotta poop, right? Specifically, this guy. Luckily, I have a Nintendo Switch that I bring with me into the bathroom sometimes whenever I need. When browsing the Nintendo eShop, I noticed they had Warface available for download. Warface is an old game, originally released by Crytek during a rough period where the company wasn't doing too well. If Battlefield 4 was the large-scale, serious military shooter, and Black Ops 2 or Modern Warfare 3 were the wacky, explosive arcade twitch shooters, Warface fell somewhere in the middle. It looks quite nice, runs on some variation of the CryEngine, and has a distinct and heavy feel to its movement, while the actual gun mechanics are quite recoilless and snappy. Interestingly, it was also a shooter that placed a heavy focus on its sliding mechanic, long before sliding became an overdone design fad. Warface is a class shooter with your usuals, the medic class, the ammo class, the sniper class, and so on. And its team deathmatch, which is the most populated mode, is a rather addictive game of spawn trap the enemy. I say that in the best possible way though, because like Polygon before it, there's something fun about those push/pull spawn trap modes that Operation Locker or Operation Metro gave us in the good Battlefield games. You always spawn at your base, and you win by essentially controlling most of the map, and keeping the enemy pinned in their spawn points. Is it well balanced or well designed? I honestly doubt it, but damn if it isn't addictive when I'm trying to evacuate my bowels. It's also crazy that this game, which is nearly 10 years old, is free to play, and has adopted numerous different business models, still has a more coherent military aesthetic than Call of Duty Warzone, which is only a few years old. Unfortunately, the PvE modes are pretty dead, which is a bummer, and they're not even that great. There is this alien mode, which reminded me quite a bit of Call of Duty Ghost's underrated extinction mode. I really wanted to give it a try, but I just couldn't find a match. I was able to get a private lobby going of the game's cyborg mode thing, and I don't know, it clearly isn't designed for a single person, and the AI is a bit brainless. Either way though, give Warface a try if you want solid, low-stakes shooting, great production value, and good game feel. And especially for Switch users who don't have any money and want a shooter to play that's kind of like Call of Duty, it's free, and the console port for Switch is pretty good. Oh man, Combat Arms. Back in, I don't know, it had to be 2009, I was super into this game despite my computer only running it at like sub 30 frames per second. I just love this game so much, especially when they added the zombies mode. I would play this thing for hours and bounce between it and Call of Duty 4. When I learned that there was a reloaded edition, I didn't even hesitate in installing it on my PC. And what I was greeted with was different, but still quite nostalgic.
Round start.
Hearing that familiar voice instantly brought me back to my childhood, the feeling of the carpet under my feet, the ugly beige of my keyboard and monitor. What I especially loved hearing were the hilarious player taunts where cuss words are bleeped out and everybody in the lobby's just yelling at each other.
Watch
What's less nostalgic is what they've done to my poor baby. Combat Arms has been overrun by some pretty insane cosmetics. Back when I played the game, it had this annoying rent system where you could rent certain weapons and attachments. It was the norm for free-to-play shooters back then, and in a weird monkey's paw situation, the rent system seems to have given way and been replaced with the most aggressively monetized skins I've ever seen. Whatever Counter-Strike knockoff art style Combat Arms used to have is just completely gone. Now it's just low poly clowns, schoolgirls, prisoners, you name it. The game has just no visual identity anymore, and the population is unfortunately so low that it's hard to find matches, let alone get some started. Though I will say, that's always been the case of Combat Arms. Anyone else remember yelling at the host to start? God, what I wouldn't give for someone to revive this game during its cabin fever period. Oh yeah, I had to include this one. Halo Infinite is both a mainline Halo entry and a free-to-play Halo multiplayer title, and as a result, you get a weird mixture of both. It's not even a full quarter of what you'd get from a $60 Halo release. What modes come to Halo Infinite are kept in the game and can be easily played with friends in customs, against bots in customs, or online via the various playlist offerings. Like any modern free-to-play title, there is the annoying rotating store, battle pass, and heavy focus on cosmetics and all. But all of these things are rooted in the Halo universe, mostly. You won't have an identity crisis like Call of Duty Warzone. At any given point, the game undeniably looks like it's part of the Halo IP. The 4v4 offering in Halo Infinite is quite varied for similar free-to-play titles, and the big team battle mode can be quite fun as well. For those unfamiliar with Halo's gameplay, it's not really an arena shooter, but like arena shooters, it has no loadouts. In Halo, you all spawn with the same weapons and have to find what you want in the maps, whether they be different weapons, vehicles, or equipment like the grappling hook. So it could be maybe best described as a sandbox shooter. Depending on the map, you may encounter intense vehicle chases or infantry-focused combat. It all depends on what the sandbox of the map is. What's also nice is the game's art direction is so strong that it still looks quite good on all graphics settings. The only drawbacks to the game are the bugs, optimization, and sluggish response time from the developers. 343 Industries are committed to the game, but they haven't really demonstrated the same speed and urgency as their contemporaries. Bugs that existed as far back as the playtests from summer of 2021 still exist in the released game, and the game is just missing a hell of a lot of content that Halo titles under Bungie shipped with. That being said, Forge is on the horizon, which is this awesome map maker, scripter, and editor which will inject a ton of player-made content into the game. And in an instance of 343's lack of polish helping the game, the Forge mode was leaked in a recent playtest for campaign co-op of all things, and it looks awesome. The game is moving in the right direction, extremely, painfully slowly, but it is moving. And if you feel nostalgic or want a mechanically solid free-to-play shooter, you could go worse than Halo Infinite. There are few shooter sounds more iconic than a Halo energy shield recharging.
Sidearm, deftly employed. The right tool for the job. Power items have shipped.
And there we go. The free-to-play shooters I've been playing in 2022. I know some of these are weird and niche, but I wanted to find the smaller games and give them a spotlight. Except for Halo. That wins some bias points. Are you part of a niche free-to-play game community and want to shed some light on it? Feel free to reach out. I'm always open to make more videos like this. And for those of you who've played some of these games, what are your thoughts? Think I missed the mark on anything? Let me know down below, and I'll see you all on the next video. Please subscribe. Oh, and also maybe like and share, but please subscribe.